Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Melanie. This is Adventures in Hostessville, and this is episode 2 of the Vintage Magazine Project, where I try to figure out history by taking a look at 12 different vintage magazines. And it is January, so we are currently looking into the 1952 January Good Housekeeping. So the article that I want to focus on today is from the homekeeping section. There is a section in this magazine called Emily Taylor's Corner. It says Emily Taylor's Corner, she cleans things. And then on the next page, there is Henry Taylor's Corner, he fixes things. I couldn't find anything else out about Emily and Henry Taylor, but I want them to come to my house and clean and fix things. Anyway, so in this issue, she is cleaning Venetian blinds. That is the title of this article, which somehow 69 years later is a thing that is still a pain in the tuchus. So she says, conscientious as I try to be about dusting our Venetian blinds, the time comes about twice a year where we live where the blinds have to be washed. But one day, after taking a good square look at the job, I begin to wonder, why wasn't there some less tedious way that didn't involve manipulating washing and rinsing pails as well as shifting a step stool back and forth? There is. It is a soaking method for the slats. Okay, I have always cleaned my blinds that way. I don't do it twice a year. I maybe do it like every 2 years. But yeah, I just take them down and I dump them in the tub. But Emily is very convinced that you cannot do that and you in fact need to take the slats out. I have the terrible feeling that once I take the slats out, I will not be able to get them back in again. But here goes. Okay, so I'm just gonna actually climb up onto the cupboard here and see if I can get these out. Oh, I actually really don't know how to get this out of here. I have never used this particular set of blinds. It looks out way up over my neighbor's garage, and I feel like if you're going to that amount of effort to see into my window, you deserve whatever you get. Okay, let's use a knife. That's safe, a steak knife. Oh, no? Aha, ha, 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 ha. Got him down, phase 1 complete. Okay, this is already a pain. I can use that again. I feel like I should get these down, though. I'm not quite sure how to do that. They are definitely dirty. They're also stuck. That's not supposed to be part of it. I'm going to take that out. Oh, for Pete's sake. Might be the episode where I just decide to get a shade. Okay, it's 20 minutes later, and I have gotten the blind to come down almost all of the way. There's still about 6 slats at the bottom that wouldn't come, but you know, this wasn't supposed to be the hard part, and I'm already frustrated and covered in WD-40. So the next thing that I have to do, apparently, is undo the ties or metal clips at the bottom. Now, modern blinds don't have those. They have these little plastic pieces, and I was kind of concerned that I would have to break them to get them off, but the decision was made for me because they broke when I was trying to get the blinds down. Blinds are frustrating. Right, they have been frustrating since Venetian times. I'm sure Roman blinds have been frustrating since Roman times. And I'm not the only person that was frustrated by them. And in fact, in the 1950s, in 1950, in fact, 2 brothers named Edward and Frederick Bopp, the Bopp brothers, filed a patent for the vertical blind that they thought would be less annoying in many ways, but one of the reasons they thought it would be less annoying is that they thought that it wouldn't get as dirty because it wouldn't catch that dust on top. And particularly these with that are in the kitchen get grease in it, and then you've got dusty grease and greasy dust and everything. So the Bopps filed this patent in 50, and in 1952, just a few months after Emily Taylor writes this article about cleaning your blinds, the patent is granted, unpending, finished, done. They've got their patent. So now I have to take this cord out. Oh dear. Okay, I'm gonna take that cord out, and then I can slide the slats out. There's one slat. Oh, I'm gonna do this, I guess. This is gonna take a while. Okay, well, while I'm doing this, there's another patent being worked on in 1952 that is, if possible, even more important and intriguing than the vertical blind, and that is the polio vaccine. So polio has been a huge issue in the United States since its first outbreak in 1894, and it's also known as infantile paralysis at this time, even though it's not only infants who get it. Notably, of course, FDR was diagnosed with it. He got it when he was pushing 40. Can I just pull this cord? Nope, no I can't. I'll keep doing it this slow, hard way. Emily Taylor. And polio is sort of a overarching name for a group of different polio viruses. There are 3 main strains of it, and usually when we're talking about polio, what people mean is poliomyelitis, which is the one that causes the paralysis. And the way that the polio virus works is it enters your body through your mouth from other people, through oral or nasal secretions, or it can come through fecal matter to the mouth, which seems like an easy thing to avoid, but I think you'd be surprised how much fecal matter gets in a person's mouth, especially for kids. And when it gets in there, it is not killed by your digestive system. It loves your digestive system, and it reproduces like crazy in there. And then it leaves your digestive system and goes into your bloodstream where it attacks the nervous system. Specifically, it can attack the brain and the spinal column, and that's what causes that paralysis, why we always see the kids in the polio braces on their legs. It can also cause your chest and your lungs to become paralyzed, and that makes it so that you cannot breathe on your own. So that is where the iron lung comes in. If you've seen those big coffin-looking things that people used to have to lay in, and just your head is out of it, and inside this giant machine is making you breathe. FDR decides he really wants to make it an effort of his to figure out what we can do about polio. He founds what he calls the National Foundation for Infantile Paralysis, which is not a super catchy name and is probably why you've never heard of it. At one point, they're trying to plan a fundraising campaign, and they've got Eddie Cantor involved. And Eddie Cantor was a big star in the 19-teens in the Ziegfeld Follies, vaudeville reviews. He is still going strong in the 40s. He's got a radio show, and he says, you know what? What if we do a radio fundraiser? He says, you know what we could call it? Because there was this newsreel at the time called The March of Time, and it would say, this is the March of Time, and then it'd give you the news. And he says, we could call our thing the March of Dimes, because we are asking people to just send in whatever they can. So that's what they call it, and the name sticks, to the point that a couple of years later, the National Foundation for Infantile Paralysis actually changes its name officially to the March of Dimes, which started off just as a punny joke. And in fact, it is actually because of FDR's founding of the National Foundation for Infantile Paralysis that became the March of Dimes. That is why FDR is on the dime. But they find this guy named Jonas Salk, who is a virologist, immunologist guy. During World War II, he had been working on flu vaccines and stuff like that, but he has become interested in the polio virus. And so the March of Dimes is like, hey, how about we fund this and you only focus on polio for a while? And he does. And I will tell you more about what Salk does when I've washed these blinds. So Salk is working on this vaccine, and he has had the idea to use what is a dead vaccine. So up to this point, most vaccines, like smallpox and the flu virus and stuff like this, use what they call an attenuated or a weakened version of the virus. And the idea is that it's not enough to hurt you, but when it puts it into your body is like, I see you, and it forms these antibodies. And then when the real thing shows up, your body knows what to do. And Salk is like, wouldn't it be better to have the virus that we're injecting be dead, and then you wouldn't have to worry about it at all? So his plan is to kill the polio virus with formaldehyde. But there's sort of this narrow window of how killed it can be, I guess. Like, it has to be dead, but it can't be completely disfigured because your body needs to be able to recognize it. So he's been doing a lot of animal experiments, and in 1952 he says, okay, I am ready to try this out on people. He inoculates all of these kids that have already had polio, which is kind of curious, but I guess the idea is to see if this will create better antibodies than their own case of polio actually had. And it seemed that it did. And by 1953, he is ready to try it out on regular people, and the regular people he chooses are himself, his wife, and his kids. And by 1955, it is announced that it is safe and it's ready to go. Everything is perfect, everybody's happy, there's no problems with the vaccines, except for those 200 kids that got polio from it. And I'm going to tell you about that when I am done with these. So it's out, it's approved, and it's being used immediately. And they go to 5 different pharmaceutical companies to make the vaccine, and everything's great, but not for very long. Because in April of 1955, so really shortly after the vaccine starts getting used, one of the companies that has been making this vaccine, the Cutter Laboratories in California, they make a mistake. And they don't get the vaccine, or the virus, they don't get it completely inactivated. And they inoculate 120,000 kids with live polio virus. Not good. About 40,000 of those kids get a mild form of polio, so they've got, sort of more like flu-like symptoms. But something like 200 of the kids are paralyzed, and 10 of them die. So it's later discovered that it is a mistake on the laboratory's part, but it's actually a mistake that the other laboratories are making too. It just didn't come out as badly for them. And what we have learned from that is that making a vaccine in a lab when you're Jonas Salk doing it one time is very different than mass producing it. Also, the approval period, there's a better word for it, but the approval period for vaccines was very different then. Apparently it took about 2.5 hours to approve it. Now that process would be a year. And the companies that are making it would not have to just prove that they had inactivated it once. They would have to prove it over and over and over and over. Okay, I have finally got them all on here. They're all together on here. There was a horrifying moment where I thought that maybe I had missed a slat on one side and not on the other, but that appears not to have been the case. So I'm just gonna knot the ends here because I don't have those little plastic pieces anymore. And I certainly don't want them to fall back through. I'm gonna double knot them. I don't know if this is gonna be even. I have no idea what's going to happen. Now I need to, this top part is still filthy because I was not told to, because I couldn't just throw the whole blasted thing into the tub. Okay, I'm gonna put this back up on my window now. All right, they're snapped back in. Let's see if I can, oh, look at that. Oh, they work now. Well, yeah, they mostly work now. Okay, I'm just gonna put them back open how they always were and continue to not use them, but I will just ponder in my heart the fact that they are cleaner now. Okay, would I ever do this again? Absolutely not. Thank you so much for joining me. There will be a new episode every week all year long. Follow me on Facebook at Adventures in Hostessville, at Instagram at Melanie in Hostessville. Subscribe here on YouTube. And if you really want to be a super awesome subscriber, you can go to patreon.com/Adventures in Hostessville and subscribe to me just like you would a magazine, and you'll get additional content all of the time.